Well, Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to my favorite part of the month, which is our first Tuesday coffee talk with Jack Spirko, John Willis, Nicole Sauce. And this is a time when you can ask us anything. So if you've been listening to John Willis on some of his YouTube streams or watch some of his videos and thought, I really wish I could ask that guy this, or sit down, have a cocktail and ask a question. Or if you've been listening to Jack, especially yesterday's show about 2023, and thought, I really want to put this 2 cents in or ask that question, now's the time to do it. And the way you get a question in is you put your questions in all caps so that blind Nicole can actually see it. I'll star it, and then I bring it up later. I also want to remind you that if anybody that looks like Living Free in Tennessee, Special Operations Equipment, or the Survival Podcast solicits you to go off into a private chat room to talk about stuff or offers you this unbelievable Bitcoin deal, that's a bunch of bullshit, and that's not us. People are imitating us on the internet and saying things. My personal favorite is the one who's trying to get you to move towards violence because you're a patriot, because that's totally what my podcast is all about. Like secret violent attacks. Definitely not us. We don't want you to be scammed.
We see you, Fed boys.
Yeah, that's the FBI.
That was a good one. I was like, have you even listened to one episode of my podcast? I mean, come on.
I did a thing recently, a meme, and it was 2 FBI agents looking at a computer, and they were all distraught. And I said, that's my agent that's been following me for a year, asking the fellow agent, are we the baddies?
Yeah. Are we the baddies? I always say, who's the Fed in the room? And we keep pointing to this one guy because it's fun to pick on him. Okay.
We used to do that too, and he actually turned out to be the Fed in the room.
How'd you find out?
See?
Well, because he was there when they raided my shop.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. There you go. Okay. Well, so sometimes you know who the Fed in the room is. And I feel like anytime there's a Fed in the room for our gatherings, they're like super disappointing on what intel they did not gather. But that's okay. We can move on.
Well, they're composting chicken shit, eating rabbits, and training dogs to defend their property. There's got to be something in that.
Something. I mean, I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of John Willis's dogs. I can tell you that right now.
No.
That dog's bigger than I am, I'm pretty sure. Much sharper teeth than these.
Right.
Okay. So, Jack, I listened to your podcast yesterday, even though I'm about a week and a half behind because I got Christmas vacation to catch up. So I'm almost caught up. But I thought I better listen to the first one this year. And yesterday, you were kind of talking about your outlook for 2023 and how you do see hard times coming. And your whole podcast, you've pretty much said things are bad, things are good. Be prepared for the most likely things to happen, and you'll be fine. And this time it was a little bit different. So give us the quick summary of what you see coming in the next 6 to 9 months in 2023.
We're going into a major recession. Anybody that tells you you're not or we're not sure of it is lying or wrong. I'm sorry. Like every indicator is there. We have Fortune 500 companies. Pretty much all of them said we have layoffs planned in 2023. The Fed's stated goal right now is to fix inflation by getting 4 to 6 million people fired, assuming that they do it right. And then just the overall macros are shit. We have a yield curve inversion, which I won't get into, but generally, if you have a yield curve inversion, you're getting a freaking recession. And we also have a complete shitstorm of a mess in the real estate market. So we had these stupid low interest rates. I have a 2.79% interest rate on a 30-year mortgage on my house. I won't even pay. I could pay it off right now. I won't because I can do better than 2.79 on my money in return. So I'm not going to do it, which is great for me. But it artificially inflated housing prices because people don't buy a house based on the price. They buy a house based on a payment. So we artificially inflated housing payments with these stupid low interest rates for about a decade, compounded with quantitative easing by the Fed, which basically is them buying all the bad debt, taking it out of the hands of the banks and servicing it and collecting on it. Now the Fed is in negative territory, meaning they actually are losing money, but it doesn't matter because they just print it. They're still paying remittances to the banks by printing money, which means they're bailing out the banks backdoor style. Their remittances are not going to the federal government. And over the last 10 years, the Fed has remitted about $1 trillion to our federal government for them to continue to waste. That gravy train's gone for at least a few years. So then the Fed turns around, gets people fired, and raises interest rates. That raises mortgage interest rates. Mortgage rates are now about 7%. So the average person who has a good job, nothing went wrong for them yet, that wanted to buy your house, that qualified for a $450,000 loan last year, qualifies for a $250,000 loan this year. So as soon as people start losing their jobs, because that's what hasn't happened yet, but it will. But as soon as that starts happening, people can't afford the house that they bought because they buy at the edge of their fucking limits. And there's going to be nobody to sell to. So you're going to get 08 all over again, only worse. And what that means is the whole fucking world is about to go on sale. So if you're prepared, it will be the greatest opportunity you'll probably see in your lifetime. However, there's a shitload of people out there I think they're prepared, and they're not. There you go. That was an hour and a half and I think 2.5 minutes.
Hey, why didn't you just say that yesterday, Jack?
Yeah, I could have.
No, because you had to tell the story and convince them it was real, right?
Yeah.
But luckily, a lot of our audience, right, who's been listening for a decade or even a month, right, they sold those houses at an inflated price on the coast and moved inland, right? So a lot of those guys are actually on a property where they can sustain. And while they have a lot more stuff, they have less debt. So hopefully most of the people listening to this are in that situation and they actually have some money or they have something they can liquidate so they can, take advantage of the situation that's about to be.
Yeah. I mean, if you bought your house 10 years ago, like I did, you're in pretty good shape no matter what. If you bought your house 10 years ago and you don't want to move and you can service a mortgage if you still have one, you're in great shape. But if you bought a house in the last, I'm going to say 5 years, and you want to move, you got a problem. And if you bought it in the last 2 years and you want to move, if you can move now, move now. What I said yesterday is it's last call at the bar, but it's not 15 minutes to, right? It's 5 minutes till. The waitress is busy with a high roller and there's 3 people in line at the bar, right? If you want to get out, act now. And it's going to be difficult, again, because that interest rate's so high on the other side. So you're going to have a stockpile of cash, a significant amount of equity, a really good buy, something like that. But, one of the coolest things I've seen on regular TV in the last 10 years is a show called The Food That Built America.
Yeah.
And it's really freaking cool. It's on Discovery or one of those channels, right? And it tells the story of like these huge brands, and a lot of it's junk food and all, like, Hershey's chocolate or Cheetos or whatever. But what you see is like 90% of these mega brands were built right in the beginning and through the Great Depression. And that's because there's tremendous opportunity when everything goes to shit, because people are looking for answers, alternatives, and solutions. So somebody already asked, how do you get prepared? One, a little late, but you want to have a stockpile of capital, whether that's in the form of cash, real equity in property. You would have had the equity 10 years ago, that type of thing. And you want to have your eyes open and alert, and you don't want to be dependent on, I hate saying this because most people that listen to this probably are, on a single source of income, because nobody's job is truly safe in this, right? Like what happens is like the big layoffs are coming straight at tech right now. That's where it'll be first. But how many people, their businesses are supported by those people, paid those, so that it's a cascading effect. And this is like an 18-month cycle to see where it bottoms.
Yeah. Well, so I'm coming at it from this way, because these are the emails I get now. It's somebody who just found me, or they just found you, or they just found John, right? I mean, they email you, not me, when they find y'all. And they are typical American in that they have a job, they have a house that they can basically service, but that checking account's getting close to zero every month. They are slowly accumulating debt, and they're just making all of the bad decisions that our society tells us to do. So if that person arrives today, what steps can they take this month to start setting themselves up to be less hurt during a recession of this kind? Because those are the panic emails I get. And I'm like, I can kind of talk about things, but part of it is once you've set the foundation, you're in a better position. But when I realized I needed to set that foundation, it was 2016, right? So I've been working on this for 6 years, and I'm in a better place for this recession than I was in 2008 when we had that downturn. I survived that one, but it really sucked. So what would you tell them, either one of you, what would you tell people who are like, crap, I've just woken up and I have, $20,000 in credit card debt and a house I can barely afford and an addiction to avocado toast?
You go, John.
Yeah.
The avocado
coming out of his nose now.
The avocado toast is real. I see it at First Watch when we go into a town. I have breakfast there, and there is a lot of avocados. We haven't seen an avocado in the grocery store in 3 years worth eating. We found a couple, cut them open, and they were complete trash. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Cut off a lot of shit. Everybody's got some stuff. You're gonna have to constrict. Stop spending money on shit and figure out how to make more money. If you're a mechanic and your customers, aren't having their cars repaired and they're not putting tires, mechanic stuff is mechanic stuff. You better figure out how to repair some shit that somebody needs repaired that they can't do without. Just because you specialize in one thing, there's a ton of other things. And when you can't get parts to fix these things, somebody there somewhere knows how to make that part work again, right? When we moved here, there was a place called Snow's, and they rewound alternators and starters. They're out of business, but I'll bet we could find that dude and get him to rewind some of those if we needed to, right? You just have to look beyond what you think is capable and just get prepared. If you believe that that's truly coming, then you need to stop doing all the shit that you don't absolutely have to do right now. You need to get uncomfortable and get comfortable in that. Now, with that said, Nicole said 2016. In 2016, if we'd have had this conversation, most people would have told you you're too late. I'm 51 years old. Every year something was supposed to wipe us from the world. I spent 10 years not paying the IRS. I spent 10 years amassing a 2,000 square foot basement full that looked like a Costco in there. Here we are, and I didn't pay the IRS for 10 years, right? So imagine their surprise when I'm like, hey, I owe you some money, right? So what would I have been better off? And I had to live below board. I didn't do a lot of social media. I didn't do any of that shit. Had I just paid them and continued to live and amass, I would have had way more money, right? That's the thing.
Yeah. I love this. Strong Roots Resources just picked up 24 bags of partially composted leaves, soil in the making.
Yeah.
Something actually, this one comes from Strong Root Resources. He did this last year. This is Kerry, who does homestead advising and permaculture consults and all sorts of stuff. He actually just came out here and helped me reframe my joists last week. He did no spend January. He and his wife were like, man, we're out of control. We got to see what we really need. And they took the whole month and just didn't buy anything. No groceries. Nothing. I mean, they paid their bills, but they didn't buy anything. They didn't go on Amazon and just get that one nutcracker or that can of pepper or whatever. And at the end of the month, he realized, what they were spending extra on and what they really needed. And so if you're not sure, it sounds like a drastic step to take, but try a no step January. Now, of course, if you completely run out of food, you should buy food. But don't run to the store for the avocado or the milk for your coffee. Just try, can I live off what I have here? And then take notes on, I really do want that heavy whipping cream every week or whatever it is. And see, take an assessment, because if you lose your job and have no money coming in, if unemployment disappears, which could happen, you never know, you're going to be living off what's in your house at that moment. And anything that you can odd job, figure out, trade for, or earn money for. And it's not a bad taking the temperature. And I know it's hard to convince reluctant family to go with you on this, but
all you preppers storing all this stuff, now would be a good time to see what it's like to actually live off of it for 30 days.
Yeah.
What I said yesterday is there are people who are well positioned for what's coming that will come out the other side with their lives ruined. And there's people that are completely unprepared that will come out with their lives incredibly enhanced because it's going to be how you adapt to it. But on the monetary side, this is the big problem for all three of us to advise some of the people that listen to us. We have two sides of the income statement to work, the expense side and the income side. And so if I'm like, I see hard times coming, I will do far better to maximize the income side than to go out and try to tune a little bit better on the expense side. Like I already have a very efficient expense side. You can only get so efficient with that. Some things are non-discretionary. Some things are discretionary, but screw it, I have the money. I've done the work. I've been doing this shit a long time, so I can afford it. So I'm not giving it up. You might have to. The problem for a lot of our audience is they don't have discretion on the income side. And what I mean by that is if I need an extra $3,000 a day, I can sell 10 lifetime memberships for $300. And in 15 minutes, they'll be gone. And I just put $3,000 in my pocket. I can't do that every day, all the time. But that's just one example of how I can do something like that. Since I run a business, I can also move, and I don't know that I can get any more efficient with this, but over the years, I've moved a hell of a lot of things that were on the expense side of my life to the expense side of my business, reducing my burden to the IRS. If Texas did something really stupid, I don't think they will. It's a great place to run a business. But if they did, I could literally move my entity without moving my body to another state. We have so many options as entrepreneurs that an employee does not. And it's why I've preached and evangelized entrepreneurship for so long. And this would be a good time. I know it sounds crazy. We're going into a recession, so start a business. But that's what I said earlier about the show, the food show, right? Like, that's the best time to start a business, because the best time to start a business is to identify a disruption and harness the disruption. So if you look at my show now, almost 15 years, the disruption was, here's podcasting. No one really knows about it. And people say, what do you do? I'm a podcaster. I'd have to tell them what it was. But it was a disruption factor for talk radio. You get on the radio, you're driving in your car. I've been in my car an hour a fucking day. And this asshole has maybe 33 minutes of content in an hour and 27 minutes of ads, commercials, traffic reports, bullshit I don't care about, right? I know the traffic sucks. I'm sitting here looking at it. So I jumped into that area of disruption and did something different in a different way. And so that was a technology disruption. Those are great. This is an economic disruption. Like John was talking about you can't get the part for the car. Maybe it's because it's not available. Maybe it's because the guy can't afford it. You want to understand the opportunity there? Go to Cuba if you can. And you see all these freaking gorgeous American cars from the 40s and 50s, right? And 60s. And they still run. They can't get parts for them, but they're like it looks like 1955 America in some of the places down there with these old cars. Why? They have no alternative. So they've got innovative and they figured out how to repair these things, how to make something work from nothing. That's opportunity. Like we have Tim Toolman, right? Runs a handyman business. Great business, because all of a sudden they can't afford to just go to Home Depot, pick some shit out and have an installer from Home Depot come. But maybe you know how to do it. And then you're on site, right? So now you start working the income side, because if you're a good handyman, while you're on a customer's property and doing something, you're like, hey, have you ever thought about doing this or this? If so, here's my card, call me and I'll come do it. And so you got to start moving your operations to the income side, or you got to get really efficient with cutting your budget to the bone. It's your choice.
Does Tim Mantoul still run a handyman business? I mean, is he? I think he's almost at the point where he doesn't even have to do that any longer.
I know he's doing snow removal because that's why he didn't come to Texas.
They're doing three things, right? His content business, the handyman business, and the daycare center.
Does everybody know Goldshaw Farm there? You guys familiar with him?
Never heard
No?
of him.
I've never seen him on here. I'm stoked that he is actually here. Great YouTube channel. I'm not aware really of what he's asking about here. Speaking of disruption, what's your take on Chat GPT, other next-gen AI tools? I think he's talking about AI for authoring, content and, auto answering and stuff like that.
I don't know what GPT is.
Yeah, I don't either know.
Tell us
I do know
what that is. We don't know what it is.
We don't know, so we might not have a take on it, but we'll see.
Service your customer. If you answer your customer, you know what you told your customer. Always have a record of it. If you're ever short on money, like you need money this week, and you have to pay some bills or something, call your customer. Call your newest customer. Hey, thank you for your order. Call your older customers. If you're using any kind of analytics, Shopify shows me who is on target to be our biggest customers this 30 days and what of our biggest customers have not purchased in a length of time. And amazingly, when you call them and just say, hey, I'm just saying hello, how's your stuff? You will always see a spike in, like an enormous spike in sales. So as far as the AI thing, I'm not saying don't use it. I'm saying I don't use it.
I mean, I sort of do if it is that automatic answer thing. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's the thing where you can ask it a question.
It's
really experimental right now. I don't know how you would use it to create content. It's kind of stupid too on some levels. Like, I feel like our jobs are safe if that's what AI is right now. So when they asked, I wasn't sure, but I looked it up, and I have an account with that thing. And you go in and you say, like, is global warming real, or it would have you, and it tells you its opinion that's not an opinion. It also, the thing he's talking about to me seems very limited because it doesn't have access to the internet. It knows what it's been told, and it forms a conversation based on what's been given to it as the last update. So that means the people that are updating it are really telling it what to say, and it seems like a gimmick to me right now.
Yeah, he's saying spend time with it in December. The December edition is insane.
There's a lot of people on here that actually know what it is. There's quite a few comments about it. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah. I haven't played with it at all. All I use for automatic communications is automatic replies saying this is what your expectation can be for a response.
I guess what you could do with a business then is you could give it all the information about your business.
Yeah.
And it could be your technical support.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with a person doing it. So
Hollow Roast Coffee, one of the questions I get the two questions I get the most often are about, are my beans organic? And what about mold? And that's because I think it's Bulletproof really promotes markets based on no mold in the coffee. Yeah. And so I do say the same answer to those two questions all the time. And those could automatically go to somebody. I had somebody reach out to me in December, and I said, if what you're looking for is coffee that has been tested every single batch for mold, I'm the wrong person.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of money to invest. And where I put my energy is ensuring that my source of beans are from farms that are making enough money to put the care in during fermentation to not grow a bunch of toxic mold. But most food has it in it anyway. Like at the parts per million that we start talking about, most foods have it in it anyway.
I thought that guy that was doing all the talk shows and stuff about the coffee mold thing, I thought it got busted out that he was completely full of shit.
It does make me think of like the big plastic scare back in the 90s where women would freak out because the lady brought cookies to the kid party and they were in a Tupperware dish. Like, I don't know, like, I've always said, if you take a breath in and out, you just inhaled and exhaled 50,000 toxins. Don't go out of your way, but I think we're getting to a point where people are, I don't know. They're your customers, so I can say it. You can't. Quit worrying, Karen.
Well, and I just give them the facts and let them make their decision.
Yeah.
I had one guy, he was like, I really like the flavor of Starbucks French roast. What should I order on your website? And the answer is nothing on my website tastes like that. Because my roaster won't do that because I roast with air and not with a hot, like barrel roaster.
I think
burnt flavor, like to get the burnt flavor, I have to catch my roaster on fire, right, John? So
I think I asked you that. I'm like, I want Starbucks Christmas blend. What do you have like that?
There's nothing, but I have something better. So I sent the guy like 6 samples. And I said, if none of these are what you like, then you need to buy the Starbucks. That's what you need to buy. And he ended up buying the Starbucks. And I'd rather have that conversation than try to chase after something that's not what I do. Because
you're not trying to capture Starbucks market share. You're trying to capture anti-Starbucks market share. Right? You're looking for somebody that wants a craft roaster, that wants.
Yeah, we're in a different category than Starbucks completely.
See, and that's actually a good discussion for what's coming, right? That's what I said yesterday, that if you tried to go to war with Nabisco and sell cookies for less dollars a box than Nabisco can sell cookies for, they will beat your brains into the ground and defecate on you, right? You will not win. It's impossible. But if you want to sell like If I was going to make cookies for a living right now, I would make dogs cookies because I could sell them for twice what I could sell them for people, and people will buy them for their dogs. Like that's the way I would think there. And then I would market that, like, I'm making the Kenberry approved full-on carnivore dog cookie. I don't know how I would do it, but I would figure it out, right? It would basically be a bone ground up into a cookie. Like it would be something, and I'm not saying I would do that. I'm just saying it would be something in that angle that you have to look for the thing people want inside the thing that people need, but you need to market the want, not the need. This is something I've been teaching for longer than I've been podcasting, 25 years as a marketing consultant. There's really two product categories as a whole. There's wants and needs. That's all there really is. You either need the thing, it's non-discretionary, or you want the thing, you desire it. And there's definitely overlap. So everybody needs food, but not everybody needs grass-fed lamb. But people want grass-fed lamb. And the first thing people cut in a depression, you would think it would be their wants because it's easy. It's not. The first thing they do is they get their AT&T bill out and they call Sprint and they save $10 and woohoo, we did it, right? That's not the market you want to be in. And that same fucking person will find out like they're like my age and some band they loved in the 80s has a reunion tour and they'll go spend $600 a seat for 2 seats and take their wife that doesn't even want to go to get, stage side tickets after they just went through hell to save $10. So never forget that. I don't care if it's right or wrong. I don't care if you don't do it. If you beat that in yourself, I have. That's society. That's your market. That's who you're selling to. Sell the want.
Yep. I was waiting for John to jump in, but he didn't. He just stood there.
Well, and it's great when the want is also the need, right? Because if like our product, right? How many guys are buying our product because number one, they want it. And number two, they're buying it because they perceive they need it. And really, with a lot of the crazy shit where you are right now, maybe you do need it, right? So when those overcross, it even becomes easy. I saw somebody also talking about the AI, and Google is warning not to use it because they can tell that it's AI and it'll affect your rankings. I don't give a shit about my URL ranking. None of my business is coming because somebody just stumbled across us. People know about us because they are direct typing it. Like 85, 90% of our stuff on our search, on our analytics show direct type in URL or click through link directly to a product off of social media. Like that means nothing to me anymore.
Let me talk about this whole, if you're going to use it for content generation, you think, man, this is new. No, it's not. So back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when I got into search engine marketing, there was a tool all the way back then you could buy called Article Buy. And it wasn't as sophisticated as this thing, but it worked damn good for what it did. And basically what you did is you took tons of scraped content and you made snippets out of them. And then you created an entire on-the-fly database of like a thesaurus, like similes. Substitute this word for that word, this word for that word. And you made as many of them as you could. And then you created this generational thing out of it where it kept spitting out these new snippets of articles. And then you took your core piece of content that was designed to actually get ranked in the search engines. And then you would populate like 3 or 4 blocks of text, click here to read the rest of the article. And it would take all these manipulated forms. And then you use something called PHP, or you could use Cold Fusion, some programming language. You put all that shit in a database. And every time that page loaded, it called up 3 random articles from that database that were also rewritten. And you know what? It worked good. I made a lot of fucking money with it. And you know what? It didn't last. What it was a hole you could have driven a Mack truck through in Google's algorithm. And eventually they fixed that shit. So if you're thinking about using it for search engine rankings and shit like that, like we did all this already, and that's really more driven by link algorithms now than anything else. They're not going to go backwards on that. Customer service, I don't know, man. If you trust a fucking bot to answer your customer, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what they want to do with it. Maybe that's the problem.
Yeah. Google's becoming irrelevant, I think. Like we're probably more on the cutting edge than most people in using these things from just how, emerging technology is. But a lot of people in our network are looking for alternative search engines because Google stopped working. They stopped working a couple years ago. And every time they do another update, they work less well for what we are looking for in a search engine. And so you have these alternative search engines coming in. And for me, it's not like, hey, I got to protect my privacy. I don't want them to know what I'm searching about or any of that. It's like when I type in that I want to know something about these keywords, and a bunch of bullshit comes back that's clearly fluff and markety and not the actual content of what I want to learn, that search engine becomes completely useless to me.
Goldshaw, I didn't know you do marketing. I know your YouTube channel. I watch it often. I thought you did real estate. Reach out to Nicole and we'll talk. I mean, I'm assuming you have some affiliate marketing or something with these guys. I recognize Scramblin' because I see him on or her on the video. So I know that's not just some person that has showed up, but if you reach out to Nicole, maybe we'll discuss it. Maybe we can have you on one of the episodes or something. Yeah. I just don't know. I don't know what it is we're even talking about really. So let's discuss, man.
Yeah, I understand what it is. I don't know what they want to do with it.
Right. I don't know how
it's unfair for me to give my opinion negatively because whatever they want to do might work, right?
Right. I don't know how it benefits me. I mean, I'm the guy that makes the video and posts it and doesn't even put any text.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just put my email up there for you, Goldshaw. Okay, SHTF Fitness says, so even going into this depression, would you recommend focusing on higher end clientele rather than volume clients?
Of course.
So, what's your answer?
Of course.
Guys with money, this isn't going to affect them. This does not. This only, even during the Great Depression, how many people were actually affected by the Great Depression? 45, 50%, maybe. Yeah. Tons and tons. Like the Great Depression didn't even really take effect in Las Vegas area. It's like it wasn't even there.
Wealth, like the people had fake wealth, like all their money was in the stock market because some shoeshine kid gave them a tip and they followed it. Yeah, they got killed. But the people that had real wealth, that had built real wealth, like the banks made more money during the Great Depression than they ever had in history. Like the manufacturers, and like I said, these giant food corporations, Birdseye, Hershey, Frito-Lay, like the biggest companies in the world today were built in the middle of that because they figured out, like literally some of the candy, like if you watch that show, John, like some of the candy companies were like, hey, do you know what? There's as many calories in this candy bar as there is in a full meal. And they actually said, people fucking bought it. They're like, I'm hungry. I got to eat something.
Yep. What the other part of that is, if you're just starting your business right now, it's probably going to be a small one first. When you're running a small business, do you want to do a bunch of super cheap orders to people who are not very happy because they have to buy the cheap thing because they can't afford the good thing? Or do you want to service people by providing the good thing and spend less time per customer doing that and give yourself enough time to grow your business? That's my thought on the whole cheap volume thing. That's why we don't have sales at Hollow Roast. It's just then everybody's always chasing the sale.
We have a local Facebook group here, and there's people always looking for eggs. And I see $7, $8 a dozen eggs, and I see $2 a dozen eggs. And every time you see the $7, $8 an eggs, people are like, I never pay that, blah, blah, blah. They're always sold out. So at $8 an egg, it's worth it for me to sell eggs. I'm going to go to all the $2 egg guys and buy all their eggs. I don't even have to resell them. I don't even have to know how they were handled. At $2 and $3 a dozen eggs, I'm going to buy all the eggs they can produce and feed them to my dogs so that there is not a $2 or $3 egg on the market. They will all be the same. Did you see
the little viral video? And it looks like two, I'm going to say Arabic women with the eggs. And the one puts her price up and the other one puts her price up and it's lower. And she turns around and buys them all. And as soon as she buys them, she moves them over to her stack and she takes her thing and she triples the price. And the other one's pissed and she leaves. Like, that's literally what you're saying right there. I mean, and people don't just buy on price. If you want eggs for $1 a dozen right now near my house, I know a place you can go get them. I know a place you can go get them for $1 a dozen, and it's everybody around here that has chickens and can't get rid of them. They give them to this dude that runs a little convenience store, and there's a cooler that's full from the bottom to the top up. But we have people drive to our house from an hour away to pay us $12 a dozen for duck eggs.
Today on Walmart.
Never complain. And if they pay you and you don't have change, like, let me go get change, you're like, no, fuck it, keep it.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
want you to go away.
So today at Walmart.com, the price of a dozen crappy eggs is $5, rounding up 8 cents. And for 18, you're looking at $7.27 or $8.
And that's the cheapest subsidized eggs you can get.
But those are cage-free eggs, Nicole. Cage-free.
No, these are not cage-free. The cage-free are here. They're $7.50, $4.93. So yeah, and the cage-free eggs aren't cage-free. Cage-free large brown 18, $7.24. That's today at the grocery store. Oh, look at my wonderful.
That's how mine looks.
Yeah, I know.
That's how mine looks.
That's all the stuff I don't need that I still haven't cleared out. But yeah.
You know, John gave me a good idea, though. I never thought of that. I should go down to that place once a week, even though I produce eggs, and buy all their shit eggs and feed them to my dogs.
Hell yeah.
Right? I could go buy 12 dozen eggs for $12 from that place.
Yes.
With the rain the way it is right now, we got, chicken eggs are getting dirty. If they're even remotely dirty, we just put them in the dog food bowls. We don't even bring them in. We don't ever wash them.
Yep.
I saw Ken Berry was on here. What's up, man?
I'm about to kill all my bantams because they're hiding their eggs, and I'm not getting any eggs, and I'm feeding them for free.
Ken is in the house.
Yes, he is. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ken Berry is here. I don't know whose school he's in. He's in John's, yours, or mine, Nicole.
Yeah. I don't know. Ken, if you want to join us for a little while, let us know. I'll send you a link via email.
Oh, yeah, Ken could join us.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Struggling to get the stream to run. Anybody else having issues? No, but I am having a thunderstorm, so if I disappear, I disappear.
John has had a few max headroom moments, but just John is what I've seen.
We're under tornado advisory right now. We have been all morning.
Yeah. It looks like that storm might miss us completely, even though I'm in your same state. So fingers crossed. Because today is subfloor purchase day, which means drive 45 minutes with 2 pieces of subflooring in the open air.
I love how everything you do is a day. Right, it's subfloor purchase day. It's kill the turkey day. It's make pickles day. It's like
that's how I get stuff done. Jack.
Seriously, because then things have meaning.
Yes, well, and things get done. If it's everything day, nothing gets done. If there's one thing you really want to make sure happens, and you make that day dedicated to it, you get it done.
It's honing my 3 things down to one thing.
Yeah.
Even if you had one main thing every day that you got done. Imagine what that would look like at the end of the year, because most people don't have anything done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, John gave me an encouraging video on TikTok about my bathroom because my original intent was to pull the bathtub out, pull the old tile out, put new tile in, and put a different bathtub in. It's a clawfoot tub, so that bathtub thing isn't hard. And of course, it's a bathroom, so you take the floor out, and what do you find? All the rot. So it turned into redo the floor joists, reframe a wall, make sure that we don't have any other moisture issues, which it was an old moisture issue that I had fixed, and then evaluate the wiring, of course, because the wall's open, redo the drains, rerun the plumbing, and then put that all back together. So my easy floor redo for last week is going to turn into half of January. But he was like, Nicole will get it done. I'm like, yeah, she will, because otherwise Nicole has no bathroom. So we just figure it out. And of course, all the people, because I've been sharing videos about this, all the people who work in construction, but apparently aren't working right now. So they have time to sofa referee my remodel, are telling me how dumb I am for doing things the way I'm doing it. So it's been a fun experience. A lot of people have opinions who aren't here helping me reframe the floor.
Yeah. And when you click on their social media, there's no evidence that they've ever fucking done it either.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No. Somebody today told me all the parts you need to install a clawfoot tub is at every single box store in the world. I'm like, great. Come out to Cookville and buy those for me. Bring them to my house. Just try.
Isn't it interesting, John? Every time you show something you're doing and somebody pops up with all you have to do is every single time you go look at that asshole's channel and it says what? This channel has no content. They do nothing. They do absolutely the square root of fuck all. And then they're going to tell other people what to do. And I've even had some of them where like, I'll push back a little bit. Like, I thought you were different, man. Why? Because I'm some random dude you found on YouTube? What the hell is like, and I realize like some of these people have like, I don't want to say they need to be institutionalized. I don't mean that, but they have mental problems, right? Like they have this weird, like I try to be nice to everybody that I can be, but you literally end up with people that act like they know you. And you've never even chatted with them or anything before, but they've been watching you so long, they get this weird attachment, and then they like feel like, I don't know, like you're their dad and you yelled at them or something. It's very strange.
We let crazy people walk amongst us, right? And now the world is so much smaller because everybody has access to you. And when you remove frustration simply by blocking them, the truly crazy people create another account to continue to do the same shit over and over.
Yeah, I can say this, like I've had a number of those like super critical, I need to feel superior to Nicole Sauce comments. But what's also happened is I've had several side conversations from actual contractors who do real work who say, hey, I see you're doing it this way. It'll be easier if you do it that way. And I've gotten some really good tips that I'm following at the same time. And they're always like, I don't mean to be judgmental, but I've been doing this for 15 years and I really think you should use this material for subflooring or whatever it is. And I'm like, I'm totally willing to listen. I sort of know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I just know that I have to do it. And, you know, I'm lucky I have people I can hire to help me do it, but I'm not going to go try to find some remodel guru and pay him $20,000 to gut and redo my bathroom. We're going to get this done and it will be great when it's done. So
yeah, when a bunch of people tell you the same thing, you probably should at least examine it. Like when we did my outdoor kitchen, the pitch on the roof is pretty shallow. And I was putting up videos of it and a bunch of people were like, what are they going to put on the roof? And I'm like, what do you mean on the roof? Like, they're like, to cover the roof with. I'm like, shingles. And it's like, you go tell your contractor doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He needs rolled roofing. Well, one guy says that, you know, and you have a talk with the contractor. 5 people say it and you go, listen, dude, get rid of the shingles. I don't care what you do with them. We need rolled. And they did it. And like, so that helped me.
Yeah.
Because they were right. But when it's like this one random person that you have no idea who they are, and then they actually get offended that you don't immediately like kiss their ass and thank them and tell them how wonderful they are. Or when they tell you to do something and you're like, yeah, I actually did that. Here's a video from 5 years ago on why it doesn't work. And then they get mad. And then it's like, well, you know, well, if you understood how to do it right.
Yeah, that person didn't do it right. It's like communism's never been really tried, right?
We've had real socialism.
Real socialism works. It's just we've never done it. Those are my favorite comments. Well, I've consulted with some professionals along the way, just as what's next, because John knows Ken, who did the shower stuff at your place. As soon as we ran into these problems, I'm like, I need to schedule a consult call with you over video because it's too far for you to drive, but I want you to look at this so that we don't do something stupid next. And he did. He made time for it, and it was super helpful.
You know, there's a good thing right there. From Evan Dixon, Radio Made Easy, right? Said another pitfall, many DIY videos are dangerously wrong or just wrong and they'll cost you money. So I made some modifications, for instance, to the way I handle my water during a freeze. And David, a friend of ours, and Nicole and I were talking about it in chat. And I'm like, I'll put a video out after this freeze. So before I go mouthing off, like, if you do this, it'll work.
Yeah.
Let me see if it actually works. And most of these people making this content, and what happens is I don't think these people are bad. I think what happens is they start doing content, they build a huge following, and they get into a position where I need a new, well-produced, and some of these guys, I mean, honestly, they're well above our production quality will ever be. They're producing like TV quality, perfect lit, full documentary videos every week, but they end up with that schedule requirement. And I think that it's natural they end up starting to take some shortcuts. And they throw something together they really believe will work. But if it hasn't been tested across time, you don't know it's going to work. And I really respect the guys that are like, hey, look, I'm not sure. This is what I'm doing, and this is what I think is going to happen with it. But when people are like, this is the way you do it, and you look at it and go, yeah, that's going to cost every single person that does it money. And I think there's 2 kinds of content creators. There's the kind that doesn't care. They just want to make money. And there's the kind that, like, I had a moment when I started doing the podcast. This is way back. I was still in my car. And I said something about storing fuel. And it was right. But somebody emailed me and go, I just did that. I went out and I bought 6 gas cans. And I'm going to buy 6 more next month. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, it occurred to me that people were actually going to fucking do shit based on what I said. And I was immediately like, I need to really be careful with what I say. Because there's going to be consequences on the other end of it. So I need to be really careful. I'm like, I never did this before. I think this will work. Versus, hey, I've done this and it works. And I think content creators kind of split into those two, macro categories.
Yep. I try to be real clear when something doesn't work. Like we did try something for Subfloor that was a different idea and it did not work. We wanted to put real wood in because it doesn't rot as fast as that crap that once it gets wet, it melts, right?
Yeah.
And we put it in. It took like 4 hours to cut each stupid little plank. So half a day's work. I walk in and I walk between the joists and it does this. And I'm putting tile in. I was like, well, that's got to come back out. And we're going to put upper subfloor in. And I guess that's why they make subfloor the way they do. Because, yeah. Anyway, I have to learn things the hard way sometimes. And that was one of them.
We use a product for all of our subfloor stuff called Zip Systems. What's up, man?
Yeah.
What's up, my friend?
Doc Barry, Happy New Year. What's up with you?
Redhead, okay? I'm still on the coffee and still waking up, but how could I resist a chance to join this group?
Well, we got to have talks about how to get through 2023. Hey, I'm glad you're here because Tim Toolman did a 24-hour live, and on it, people were complaining about how fat they were. And so finally, I was like, listen, I'll do it with y'all because I need to do a bit of a reset this month anyway. Let's do the BBB and E January. So we're totally going carnivore for January. We're reporting in every Monday using hashtag BBBE January to just motivate each other to stick to it. So it's, apropos that you're here, that's what we're doing. See if we can reduce more, because another thing to get through the problems in 2023 is to be fit enough to handle your shit.
Yeah. And I think that's something about resiliency and anti-fragility that people, they don't think about. They're busy reading all the prepper articles about, do you have enough guns? Is your front door solid enough to take an attack? Is your right? And in reality, none of that shit matters at all if you yourself physically and mentally, if you're fragile, if your supply chain from the pharmaceutical company is fragile, if your diet has got you chronically inflamed and mentally foggy, none of that shit matters. I don't care if you've got a bank vault as your front door and you've got 10, 50 cows just laid out on the living room floor. None of that shit matters. If you are sick and inflamed and mentally fogged, none of that shit matters, because they're going to come in and take your shit and probably cook you and eat you. And you're not going to do a damn thing about it because you're fragile.
And that would be carnivore if they did that.
Or you're going to die when you can't get your weekly dialysis with your partial kidney failure from your dialysis clinic. When you told me a few years ago, Ken, on my show, you said they're putting up dialysis clinics like fast food restaurants. I was like, I think that's a bit of an overstatement. Then I paid attention when I drove down to Fort Worth, and I passed two of them between my house and Fort Worth, which is a 20-minute drive.
Yep.
And I'm like, holy shit.
Every small town.
On the same road.
Yes.
Like, I guess it's too far to drive for some people. It's like Starbucks in New York City. There's one on every corner.
Yeah. Every small town in the South especially has a convenience store, a bank, a funeral home, a cash now, a pawn shop, and a dialysis clinic. It is ubiquitous. And, John knows in Camden, very tiny, poor town. We got one, if not two, dialysis clinics.
And if you can't afford to get to it, the state will provide transportation for you.
Yes.
So there's a new opportunity for 2023, dialysis Uber.
100%.
We
Uber
a truck and a forklift, and we put your fat ass in the back of the truck.
Yep.
They have it
for your dialysis, and we bring you home and unload you with a forklift.
Yeah, there are actually companies already doing that, and it basically can charge 10 times the price of Uber if you've got basic life support training, BLS, and man, if you've got an AED on the van, oh my God, you probably charge $100 a trip for that. And people think, oh, well, that's, the government should pay for that because that's a medical necessity. Well, it's only a medical necessity because people don't mind their health.
Ken.
It's because
ahead, John.
It's the endorphin release, because you can sit on this thing at night and get on Amazon and buy 3 cans of green beans. And then you can go in your prepper Facebook group and talk about what you did with your $5 today. Fitness is free. They're not looking because it actually requires effort. It requires you to get out of bed or off of the couch and off of this thing. And they don't want to hear that, man. They melt down when somebody even, mentions it.
Yeah. Well, it hurts your heart when somebody like me starts talking about true preparedness and somebody's got 800 pounds of beans and rice in the basement and they're like, fuck you, Dr. Berry. I am prepared. I've got 800 pounds. I can feed the whole neighborhood. I'm like, oh, so you can give the entire neighborhood hyperinsulinemia. Well done. Well played, I guess.
You got 800 pounds of beans and rice. What about the 300 pounds on your ass? That's the thing. Like, a lot of what people are preparing for is highly unlikely. And I'm not saying to not make it like the extreme end of your preps, but dying because you have heart disease, dying because you have a cancer you could have survived because you're too healthy to get through the treatment, dying because your kidneys shut down, dying because you blew your liver up from drinking too much.
Yep.
All of that shit is way more likely than all the stuff that people think they're prepping for. And, I said yesterday, get fucking healthy with the shit that's coming. And I'm not talking about zombie apocalypse and shit. I'm just talking about a really, really bad recession. You can't afford to get through that and to have health problems. Yeah. You can't afford it. Financially.
I think one of the main survival skills that people have never heard of and definitely have never practiced is fasting. At Jack's last conference, I brought this up. I said, Jack, if I said, hey, we got a thing we got to do right now, it's life or death. We got to go. We're not going to be able to eat anything for 3 days. Let's go. Can you do that? Jack be like, yeah, man. John be like, yeah, man.
I'm grabbing my thermos of coffee, but we're good.
That's right. Yeah. I need something to drink. I need some. Yeah, that's it. But I'm ready to go. I do not have to eat for 3 days. And most preppers, sadly to say, if you said that to them, they'd be like, what are you talking about? Not eat for 3 days. No, I'm going to carry this 40-pound sack with me with all my rice and beans in it. It's like, dude, we don't have any space or time for that. We got to go right now. Most people would ass out because that sounds like a superpower that they don't possess. And so every single person listening to this, what's the longest period of time that you went without eating anything? And if your answer to that is less than 24 hours, you need to work on that skill and build your fasting muscle, because any adult human with practice cannot eat anything for 3 days and it literally be effortless. But it's a growth curve. You got to work on that. But I mean, just imagine the power. If you're like, oh, they got us pinned down, we can't go anywhere for 3 days. Me, John, and Jack and Nicole be like, cool, let's do it. And a lot of people would just be like surrendering right there. Like, I can't. What do you mean not eat for 3 days? Here's my gun. Take me in.
And start with 12, move to 16, eating an 8-hour window or a 4. It gives your organs time to rest. Gives your body time to clean out. Like, it's a huge, huge difference.
And, what I've found about fasting is the first day is actually the hardest day, because at the times I would normally have eaten, my body says, hey, I'm hungry.
Yep.
And it's getting past, once you get past that, your body forgets again.
That's right. And that's the part, if people have never practiced fasting. And I mean, here's a new niche, fasting as a survival skill. If you've never practiced it, about 18, 20 hours in, you're like, shit, I'm going to die. Right? But because you've never went further, so you don't know what's on the other side of that. You've never practiced that survival skill enough to get to. Moon Valley Permaculture has done 72 hours. So if Moon Valley Permaculture were in the group, they'd be like, yeah, let's go. I'm down. Let's go. But people who've never practiced this, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's another language.
See, if you're eating the way Ken teaches, over time, it just gets easy to do anyway. You find yourself like intermittent fasting. When I started, that was a thing. Like, I focused on, I'm going to intermittent fast. Now I intermittent fast more days than I don't. I'm generally about 18 hours between my last meal of the day before and my first meal of the next day. And I don't do it consciously. It just, I get done with the show and then I'll have something to eat, usually small, like a piece of sopressata or something like that, like fatty meat sausage. And then I have dinner. And as long as I don't drink, it's easy. Drinking is another thing. You really have to throttle back.
Yep.
And I'm a guy that I like my drink.
Yeah,
I like my drink, but you can't burn fat and process alcohol at the same time. It's biochemically impossible.
It doesn't matter if your alcohol is carb free. It's going to become sugar.
No.
That and what does alcohol do to your discipline? Right? You'd be like, you know what? I can totally have that roll and some butter.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll have 2. You know, that's what alcohol does.
I'm very reasonable with myself when it's like, if I do get peckish, it's like 8:00 at night. And I'm like, I start looking through the kids' snack drawer and shit. And I'm like, you don't need that. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, Jack. You don't need that. And I go sit down. If I have 3 old fashions in me, the kids are screwed tomorrow. Their drawer is empty.
Yep.
Right. So like, it's a discipline thing. It's also just, like I said, biochemically, when I learned this, it totally changed my opinion about alcohol. Fructose and ethyl alcohol are, Ken's a doctor, I'm not, so he can vouch for this. They are processed almost identically by the liver.
Yep.
Except ethyl alcohol goes in the front of the line. So if you have fructose and alcohol, a screwdriver in your body, that sugar stays in your fucking blood until your liver gets rid of the alcohol, because it sees the alcohol is slightly more toxic than the fructose. Yep. Ken, am I making that shit up or what?
No, that's absolutely true. And people don't realize fructose is a naturally occurring sugar in fruit and honey, but the vast majority of human body cells cannot process fructose. It has to go through the liver to be dealt with and either stored as fat or converted to another sugar, or your body, you can't even use it for energy. And so anytime you the screwdriver, the tequila sunrise, the fuzzy navel, all that kind of those drinks, man, you might as well just take a sledgehammer and hand it to John and let him hit you in the liver with it, because that's basically what you're doing.
You know, and to me, on some ways, the fructose in fruit juices is worse to the total population than alcohol. People drink alcohol, they know what they're doing, and nobody takes a 2.5-year-old's baby bottle and fills it up with vodka. But they fill it up with fucking apple juice.
Absolutely.
Right? And to me, that is like, you're training your kid to be a carb addict by the time they're 10.
Yep. Well, and people think they think that's a healthy choice. And what they don't realize is even the American Academy of Pediatrics says that a child under 2 years of age needs 0 fruit juice. There is no nutritional benefit. And then a child from 2 to 5 maybe can have 2 ounces a day. And they don't say, even the AAP doesn't say they need 2 to 5 ounces a day. They say you may give them. And so even the American Academy of Pediatrics knows that fruit juice is shit. But they don't say it vocally. They don't say it in public, but it is in their official guidelines that under 2 years of age, 0 fruit juice is necessary and is perhaps even harmful.
You know, go ahead, John.
Look at the food pyramid and look at what they're giving you on a WIC. You know, they were giving out fruit juice and peanut butter and oatmeal, but the fruit juice, right? We're going to just give them straight sugar and remove all the fiber and all the. I mean, it's. Do you think it's not by design? You think that was just by accident? They
didn't know. Yeah. Did y'all ever watch the show? It was a British chef. He did 2 seasons of it, and they threw him off the air even though he had good ratings. Jamie Oliver did.
Yep.
About how fat people are getting. And he was showing this person that was administering school lunches how much sugar a child consumes drinking 2 of those little milk jugs a day for a month. And he had like this giant pile of sugar, and he dumped it on the table. And it was this huge amount of sugar. And he said, do you think this is okay for kids to consume? And he said, as long as it's in milk.
That's that's magic.
Is that the chocolate milk, or like how do they get the sugar in there?
Well, all they showed is that all the kids drink chocolate milk.
Yeah, because it tastes better.
They showed like that they're literally throwing fuck tons of regular milk away every week because a certain amount of both come into the school whether they order it or not, because it's in a subsidized system, so they have to distribute it. So that's where, you know, some people feed their animals like milk waste. Well, that's where they're getting it from. Because if you give a kid sweetened freaking chocolate milk or plain old white milk, 90% of those kids are going to drink the chocolate milk.
Yeah.
And then, you know, French fries are a vegetable. Pizza's a vegetable.
Yeah.
That show was pretty amazing. It's probably worth finding the old episodes and watching it. The second year he went to West Virginia, or it was first year, one of the 2 years, and it was like the fattest town in America by the numbers, and they were all offended. This local DJ was all offended. Well, he had the DJ come meet him at a funeral home and showed him the caskets that we have to build now.
Yep.
And this DJ was kind of a smart aleck morning, you know, shock jock DJ, was like, holy shit. Like, it never really occurred to him that it was that bad. Because it was like this casket you could put like half a car in.
Yeah. And they need a lift to get you out of your deathbed.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, Ken, we got a question for you, and it's, can you talk about dry fasting?
Yeah, I'm actually working on a YouTube video about this right now, and I don't want to capture y'all's live stream talking about my shit. But in the next month or so, I'm going to be doing a video about dry fasting. I'll give you the the cliff notes. It is not dangerous whatsoever. Every single person listening to this dry fast for 6, 7, or 8 hours every single night of your life. Because when you're asleep, you're not eating or drinking, are you? So you already dry fast every single night in bed. And so what if you extended that 2 hours or 4 hours or 6 hours? And so there's actually research showing that a 5-day dry fast, and what that means is not eating anything at all and also not drinking anything at all, including water, is completely safe and fine. But, you know, you hear the old saw that you can go without air for 3 minutes, water for 3 days, and food for 3 weeks. That's complete horseshit. The world record for fasting from food it's like 385 days. A guy in Great Britain weighed 500 pounds, and he just said, what if I just don't eat? And the doctor said, well, as long as we supervise you, we'll give it a try. And he fasted for over a year without eating a single bite of food for over 365 days. There are multiple people who have done 14-day dry fast, which I do not recommend. But the research is very clear that you can do a 5-day dry fast, and there's absolutely no harm comes to you whatsoever, as long as you've got a certain percentage of body fat. Now, if you look like Gandhi in his last years, you shouldn't dry fast for 5 days. But if you look like any of the 4 people, we've all got enough stored body fat. Any of the 4 of us, we could do a 5-day dry fast, because your body actually, as it metabolizes stored fat, it makes something called cellular water, or metabolic water. And so you actually, just like a camel in the desert with that big hump of fat, you actually make water when you're dry fasting. And so, but I don't recommend a 5-day dry fast. I'm just saying research shows that it's safe. But anybody out there, the commenter's done a 3-day dry fast. I think that's perfectly safe and fine, unless your BMI is like 18 or less. And so if you've got any degree of stored body fat, you can dry fast you can do a 24 or 48-hour dry fast. There's zero medical danger whatsoever.
I would add to that, though, what is the conditions in which you're doing it, and was your condition in the beginning? So if you're well hydrated and you're going to hang out in your 70-degree house for the next 3 days, you probably fine. Yeah. If it's 103 degrees with 92% humidity and you don't drink water, you're probably going to end up with an IV in your arm or dead. Like,
that's exactly right.
That's a real thing, right? Like,
yeah. So if you're out in Jack's backyard in the Texas summer, or you're with me in the woods with my chainsaw, you're going to have to drink some fluids. Absolutely. Yeah. But a controlled dry fast in your house at room temperature, and you start off relatively hydrated, zero danger whatsoever. But YouTube video coming on my channel about that.
Cool. Yeah. If you just drank like a bunch of vodka the night before and dehydrated yourself and go work and don't drink, you're going to fall out. I've seen it.
100%.
I've seen it. In the Army, they used to make us drink. Like, they would 2-quart canteen, upend it, and then run, and then drink another one after it. And they trained you to hydrate like that. But yeah, I'm with you on it if it's under a controlled situation. We lost our leader. She ran away. Where'd she go? Ken, what else do you want to talk about? We don't get
I want to talk about what you guys are talking about. I don't want to hijack the show. I love the topic you guys are talking about.
We were kind of on the theme of opportunities in the coming year. You started digging into the ag side of things. What do you see?
Yeah, and I'm a huge advocate for locally raised eggs, meat, vegetables. I every time Nisha and I get a chance, we advocate for that. And we, our call to action is basically who's the closest guy to you that you can buy real pastured eggs from? Who's the closest guy to you you can get half a pig, half a cow? Do you know? If you don't know, that's a problem. You should know that, and you should also be encouraging that by buying John's $8 a dozen eggs. Because what's going to happen when John sees this money pouring in is he's going to be like, shit, Amanda, let's buy 100 more laying hens and let's scale it up. And that's what's good. That's the natural human nature of economics, is when you're getting good money for something that you do, you tend to want to expand that. And so everybody from the hills of Tennessee to the dry land of Texas, you need to be saying, okay, either I'm going to become my own regenerative rancher and farmer, or I'm going to encourage the growth of the nearest one to me. That brings your neighborhood resilience and anti-fragility to a level that is unmatched. You can't do any better than having within a 1 mile walking distance of your house, having 5 sources of duck eggs, chicken eggs, quail eggs, 2 sources of pastured pork, and 2 sources of pastured beef, and or lamb in my case, right? Because we're raising St. Croix sheep, and so we just had a huge cold freeze where the wind chill got to like 27 below. Nicole, we had 5 lambs.
Oh, really?
During the coldest part, because I wanted to do an experiment this year and not take my rams out and just leave them in and see what happens. And on OB Farms, that's Nationized Farm, our motto is root hog or die. And that goes for the humans as well as the animals. And so I just wanted to see what would happen. And we did not. We had 6 out of 6. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's fine. They're jumping around, playing over there in the 10 degree below wind chill factor weather. It did not affect them whatsoever. So I don't think I'm ever going to take the rams out. I think I'm going to leave in. If we have winter lambs, we have winter lambs. So be it, because they're doing great right now.
We have one that's going to give birth sometime, and I was convinced it was going to be on the coldest night of that, but she still hasn't.
What are they eating?
A really big udder.
So I rotate them, and even though obviously the grass is not growing here, we've got all kinds of stockpile, right? And so there are acorns, and they love acorns. There are all kinds of weeds and bushes, and so I'll put them in a new paddock where I've been creating silvopasture, coppicing lots of trees. And so they'll chew the tips off the twigs. And in the winter, I'll drop a pine tree. They'll eat the pine needles. Yeah. And my sheep are given such a wide variety that they're able to self-educate. So they're never going to eat enough wilted wild cherry leaves to hurt themselves, because they've learned to not do that. Whereas if you have sheep that you just feed them grain all the time, they don't know what the hell to eat because they haven't.
And what do you have for shelter for them? What's out there?
The bright blue sky. They have no shelter. They don't need shelter. No sheep or ram in the wild has shelter. That's idiotic to think you need to bring them into a barn. If you want to be that shepherd, I guess you can, but you're basically crippling your sheep. And anytime we never assist with the labor, with the lambing process, it's root hog or die here, because what I'm wanting 5 years from now is a huge flock of sheep that are resilient as hell. They've got excellent genetics. I never warned them because they've got such an access to such a wide variety of not only grasses, but also weeds and also trees that I've coppiced. Some of those things are very high in tannins, right? And so they know they self-medicate. If they've got some worms, can you guys hear Bonnie in the background? She's showing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they know to go self-medicate with this high tannin leaf over here, and that wipes out the worms.
Well, think about what they are, right? So people think like one of the hardest hunting things you can do is go elk hunting, and it'll wear your ass out. There's nothing like hunting wild sheep, and they're in every part of the world. You can hunt wild sheep in the freaking mountains of Siberia, the Himalayas, Alaska, the Northwest United States. There's invasives that are in some of the most rugged invasive sheep species that are in some of the most rugged parts of West Texas desert mountain.
Yep.
These animals live in places that Ken's backyard is like putting them in a supermarket.
Absolutely.
But you do have to be careful bringing in new stock to either browse like Ken has or well-developed pasture. And it's not just sheep. So I remember Jeff talking about how they bought some new cattle. And they brought them onto the research institute in Australia, where all their cattle do great, fantastic pasture. And one cow died, and another cow got really sick, and they had to adapt it. And they realized they had to slowly introduce that animal because there was so much that they were unaccustomed to eating that they just, like he said, they ate everything and too much of this or too little of that or whatever. And so you do have to be careful introducing stock to diverse for it.
And I'll never buy sheep or cattle or anything from a sale barn where basically people take their sick animals to sell. I don't mind paying a premium for not only healthy animals, but also animals that are already acclimated to eating a proper sheep diet. So I'm buying 20 ewes in the spring from Greg Judy, and I'm happy to pay his premium because I know that his sheep have eaten nothing but grass and weeds and tree leaves. That's all they've eaten. They know how to self-medicate. They know how to forage for everything. Why would I want to buy a cheap ewe at a sale barn and potentially introduce disease and also bad genetics into my flock? I have no interest in that.
Yeah, people keep asking what variety you're raising, and we've written it on the comments like 9 times. It's St. Croix. It's up on the screen right now, guys.
Yep. And I recently bought a Katahdin ram, and so all of my sheep in the future are going to be a 50-50 mix of St. Croix and Katahdin, because that makes them have a little bit larger body frame, and it also just scrambles up those genetics. And we all know that a mutt, it's hard to kill a mutt, whereas a pure breed, you know, if in the right situations, they can be a little more fragile. But St. Croix right now, but I've got a Katahdin ram, which will be in the genetics in the future.
So are you going to pull all your St. Croix rams?
No, everybody's in there together right now. And I don't know. I haven't checked the new ones. I don't mess with the sheep. I let them do sheep things. I'm not in there trying to micromanage them. So I don't even know if any of the 6 new lambs or rams or not. But I know I have one young St. Croix ram, and he might be for sale in the future, John, if you need another ram.
What are you getting from Greg Judy?
I'm getting 20 ewes, which are potentially bred. We won't know until, you know, the time has elapsed. But I'm getting 20 St. Croix ewes from him, which I'll go and pick up in Missouri and bring back. And I literally, it's worth the money, and it's worth that ungodly drive to know that the genetics I'm introducing are 100% solid. That these ewes are they've been trained for generations by their mother to know how to browse and to know which weed to eat and which thing to avoid. They just know that inherently. And I'm not going to have to worm them, because I know Greg never worms his sheep, which is basically crippling their immune system when you do that, because the sheep that would have died from the worm load didn't die because you kept worming them once a month. And therefore, you've just introduced that genetics into your flock. And now you've got weakened genetics, and I have no interest in that.
Right.
Yeah, I've got a West Coast St. Croix ram that's good genetics if anybody needs one, because he would like to move away from here.
He would like to?
He wants good fencing.
He wants good
fencing.
Yes.
He wants good fencing. Ken has good fencing, but my fencing is adequate. But
it sounds like he needs a 22 Magnum to the ear.
Well, the problem is that the West Coast St. Croix genetics, you know, mixed with the East Coast means we're getting more variety. So he, you know, somebody should definitely hit me up about that at some point. I want more ewes.
But I want everybody to understand that not only does it give you an extra level of resilience and even anti-fragility to have your, where people say, how do you store your protein? I'm like, my protein's in the pasture along with the fat, right? I don't have to have 27 deep freezes. It's in the pasture, and I can go get it anytime I need it. But not only does it give you that degree of extra resilience, but it also is a business opportunity. Because I promise you, anybody watching this, if you get 50 quail, or you get 10 sheep, or you get 2 head of cattle, you're going to have a market for that 100%. If you just put the word regenerative in front of it, and that also comes with a duty to honor certain principles. But if you say, hey, all they've eaten is a species appropriate diet, you're going to sell that, and you're going to make a profit 100% of the time. The business implications of that. And no, you're not going to be able to become General Mills or Kellogg's, okay? But you are going to become a local resource that can absolutely charge a markup that's going to help you pay your bills. You're not going to. It's no longer going to be a hobby. You will make money doing this 100% of the time, but it's a learning curve, and it's effort.
Yeah, I sold out of my grass pasture raised sheep this fall almost immediately. It took days.
Yep, exactly.
I have
And
a half
that's what
available
happens all
now
over the country.
again, but it's, it was very fast. Hello.
There's Bonnie Blue. Bonnie Blue is a ketovore. She lives on breast milk and the remnants of meat off my beef and pork ribs. And she loves also scrambled eggs, pickles, and avocado. And what's that other?
Bacon.
Oh, bacon, man. And deer jerky. She loves deer jerky.
Deer jerky.
Deer jerky is delicious.
So on the crossing of genetics, Ken, you can probably put the right words with this to extend it. On giving the animal innate immunity, it's incredibly important. There's something that it ends up on the outside of the cell, and like when different things invade the cell, it's transported to the surface of the cell, and the cell has to have the right receptor to identify that, and that's where your macrophages or your white cells come and destroy that cell.
Right.
And the more genetic diversity you have, the more options you have. They said one of the main reasons that disease hit the Native American population as hard as it did wasn't just they didn't have that exposure immunity, that previous immunity, but they didn't have the innate immunity because of this. And I don't remember what that particular thing in the cell is called that does this, but if you only have a very narrow band of that, then you are much more susceptible to viral and bacterial infections. Where if you have a wide variety, you have a lot more ability for your innate immunity to actually do something about it. I'm reading a book right now called 1491.
Yeah,
everybody should read that book, right?
Great book. Yep.
It's amazing. And it talks about that and how that's why some of the estimates for the death toll in Native Americans seem ridiculously high. Well, when you look at how narrow that band was of this, there's like three of 4 Native Americans came from one small part of Siberia.
Yep.
And because of no genetic diversity, when these diseases came in, it just wrecked their ass. And it wasn't just smallpox. It was a ton of different, it was influenza even, just different varieties of that.
Yeah, and this matters for humans as well. I'm reading a book right now called She Has Her Mother's Eyes. Can you guys see that? And they're talking about the Habsburgs, which was a royal family back in the day. Mm-hmm. And they were so inbred that they were so weak, both immunologically and genetically and every other single way. And so anytime you can introduce outside genetics while staying true to the breed and also staying true to what your goals are and not introducing disease, that just makes for a more resilient animal, including a human being. And you're exactly right. The innate immune system can be very, very strong innately, or it can be very, very weak. And so a lot of that stuff is inherited. You get it from your mother's breast milk, or you just inherit it genetically, that you're pre-positioned with this additional layers of defense.
Yeah.
And the more you inbreed, anybody who's ever tried to breed or at least have a purebred dog, like an English bulldog or a Dalmatian, just inherently any purebred animal is gonna have problems. That is not nice, Samantha. That is not a compliment.
You can be not nice at times. I'll probably pay for that. Anyway, no, definitely. I was reading that book and it was really interesting. You're talking about the female side too. Like there's these haplogroups. That's how they figured it all out. That there's certain components to your genetics that get handed down only by the female side of the line because men don't contribute to it. I guess the mitochondrial thing or something like that. And they really defined it. There was a very small area that all these people came from and they just got slaughtered. So if it's a person and they're sick, then medicate them and save their life. If it's your sheep, your cow, whatever, and they get sick, and it's not like you're only one,
right?
Kill that sucker or let it get through it if it can, keep it comfortable or whatever. But why is nature beautiful? Have you ever asked yourself, when you look at nature,
right?
You go to the Serengeti and you look at a herd of wildebeests and gnus and lions and shit. Everything's beautiful because that which becomes sick and ill dies.
It's immediately recycled.
It falls over, it gets sick, it dies, right? And with some level of care for the animal and some consummate animal husbandry, we need to replicate that to a level because we You know, I talk about how like people buy chickens and then they act like they have like, I don't know, teacup chickens or something. Like they're gonna like this one chicken's missing a feather. Let's go glue a feather back in or some shit, right? Like if the chicken isn't making it, it's soup.
Yes.
Right? It's just that simple.
Yeah. The only thing I protect my sheep from is predators. That's literally the only thing, because there's no way that they can develop any kind of innate immunity to coyotes or foxes or, you know, the neighbor's dogs. That's the biggest predator. And so my 6-strand high tensile, high jewel electric fence keeps the predators out. Everything else, they're on their own, because what I want to do is make them stronger. I don't want to make them weaker. I don't want to coddle them. I don't want to make them dependent on the pharmaceutical industry like 80% of human beings are. I want them to be completely resilient and able to take care of their own business. I'm going to protect, and that's the bargain. I protect you from predators so you don't get your guts ripped out. And then you provide me with fat and protein and vitamins and minerals. That's the trade-off. And they sure seem pretty happy over there. Right now it's pouring down rain here in Holiday, Tennessee, and they're as happy as they can be. They're lying there chewing their cud right now.
Looking at you when you walk by, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've got
when I
dogs
go
out
out to the
there.
pasture, they don't come running to me. They literally just look at me like, oh, okay. Whereas the average sheep rancher who's, you know, give them all the treats and all that, literally the sheep come running and bang. My sheep just looked at me like, what's he doing? Okay, whatever. And in the winter, I do add one big round bale of hay, and I'll put it up on top of the hill. I take the netting off and I push it down the hill so that it unrolls. And so not only am I feeding the sheep for a week, one bale of hay will feed them, but I'm also, everything that they don't eat goes back and feeds the earthworms and feeds all the microbial life in the soil. So it's actually building the soil, feeding the grass, feeding the sheep, and I get a little workout pushing this, I don't know, 1,800-pound bale of hay down the hill. So it's a win-win for everybody.
And you've got dogs out there with them too, right?
Yeah, I got a Great Pyrenees boy out there with them. And he basically, him peeing and pooping and barking, that's all it takes to keep the coyotes far away. And in reality, with my level of fencing, I probably don't even need him. But I want the sheep also to be acclimated to having a dog in there, because that way, if they go to a new farm, they're not going to shit their pants because here's some canine running at me.
When he says with his level of fencing, he means like if a human touches it, they might have a heart attack and die.
Yes. Yes.
It's a Ferguson fence.
It's insane. It's beyond a Ferguson fence.
It's
beyond Ferguson.
It's terror.
It's terrifying to a Ferguson.
Nick
He's like,
Ferguson,
I don't want to get anywhere near that thing.
Yeah, Nick actually came and toured the farm, and when he saw my fencing and he saw the Energizer, the quote is, "Damn."
John needs a guard zebra. He likes all kinds of weird shit. I just saw a video of a lion trying to eat a baby zebra, and the mom zebra comes in and kicks the shit out of the lion. Like guard, I think that's a new thing. That's a business opportunity for 2023. Flock protecting guard zebras.
Zebras are easy to get. There's zebras 45 minutes from here. There's one for sale right now.
There's a dude back here that has like some weird shit. He has a zebra. He's like less than half a mile walk from my place.
Yeah.
I've read that.
John, why haven't you gotten one?
I don't have grass. It's like having a horse.
Yeah. Dogs and equines.
Yeah.
No.
And zebras, I've read, are notoriously hard to train and domesticate. That's one of the reasons we've never domesticated them, is because it's virtually impossible. Pretty but assholes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Amanda pipes in.
The thing is, like, this is true with like donkeys, horses and stuff. Like, you'll notice like nobody uses dogs to work equines, because a cow will like be like afraid of the dog, and the horse will just kill the fucking dog. Like they don't do that shit. They're like, you know what? Wait a minute, I'm 1,100 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
No, and they're kind of a terrifying animal. If you've ever seen a really enraged horse, it's pretty horrifying.
Yes.
It's a new permaculture category, Beyond Ferguson.
Beyond Ferguson.
I'm going to get him a t-shirt.
Beyond Ferguson.
It's Beyond Ferguson. Yep. So, John, are you giving your sheep ivermectin or anything, or are you just letting them? What happens?
No, we don't. The sheep don't have anything. No.
Yeah.
My sheep actually have a little lean-to that's out there, but they're very rarely into it. They have access to it, but they're not in there.
Yeah. Everybody's afraid of your fence now, Ken.
Trust me.
There will be no invaders.
If you wanna come on my farm, don't climb the fence. Find another way, please. And I actually got signs on
the Jurassic Park fence.
Yeah, the Energizer, the Energizer company sent me a bunch of little plastic signs to hang on the fence. Like, no, Bubba, don't touch this. Trust.
It's like we need a picture of somebody like holding it and lit up on the shirt.
Holding their heart like Fred Sanford. Yeah, because that's what'll happen. Yeah.
You won't be able to let go.
I had it turned off the other day, and a couple of the neighbors' dogs had actually got in the pasture. And I'm like, okay, my friends. And I just plugged it back in. And I just stood there and watched them. And one of them touched it with his nose and proceeded to do the "my tail's on fire" run about 7 laps. Like, okay, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
And finally took another hit to go under the fence. It got him on the tail as he went through. And I can promise you those neighbor dogs will never be back in there again.
He's not coming back. You need one of those signs that says, like, don't touch. Not only will it kill you, it'll hurt the entire time.
Yeah. Adam asked about my fence. I'm gonna put up a video about how I did my fencing and the Energizer I use. Our farm channel is OB Farms, Oxford Berry Farms, and so you can find that on YouTube. And I haven't posted there in a while, but I'm going to start doing some more content for the farm channel.
Excellent. I'm putting that in the chat so people can see it.
Yes, OB Farms. And I've been very lazy about doing farm videos, but it's also been shitty weather here, but it's warmed up, so I'm going to start making some content again.
Yeah, that was cold over Christmas. None of us wanted to be outside.
Mm-mm.
We have like, the outdoor chores that have to happen, and Tactical does a lot of those. He would go out for about 15 minutes and then come back in and sit by the fire. Okay, I'm just poking away at it 15 minutes at a time out there.
Absolutely. It was really, really cold. It's the coldest winter we've had in, what was it, John? 30 years, 40 years?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Yeah, it was cold.
Winter is not over, guys.
Yeah.
No.
But it was supposed to be a mild winter, but it was not.
Yeah, people that didn't have straw or stock take heaters, now's your chance. Go find them wherever you can get them.
Yep. They were sold out at the co-op.
They're sold out this happens every year.
Yep.
Like you have had 11 months to go get those.
It's like winter happens every year or something. It's crazy.
Winter's coming.
Did you guys break any records in Texas, Jack?
We did not break a temperature record, but we broke the record for the most power consumed in a day, 2 days in a row, and our grid didn't blink. They kind of learned their lesson from 2 years ago, I think.
Nice.
Oh, get this. I saw an article yesterday about our power grid problems in Tennessee, which the scale of our power grid problems, for those who are interested, is that twice we had rolling blackouts, which were 15 minutes to half an hour at a time, which is basically nothing.
That's if you can't deal with that.
Your house drops maybe 10 degrees if you have a crappy house and you're using a heat pump, but it's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, unless maybe you're on some sort of life support system, that's different.
We had the brownouts here.
So we have just made a decision in Tennessee to add natural gas plants, and part of the reason they couldn't service this higher than ever used electrical use or demand was that some of the natural gas generators went offline because it got too cold. And so now what the marketing is about this is we need to stop putting natural gas plants in and instead use regenerative power systems like wind and solar so that they don't go offline when it's cold. And in addition to that, that will help with global warming. That was the article I read, and I was like, talk to me about freezing wind turbines and how the sun has to actually hit the solar panel.
Yeah.
And then let's look at this and talk about like the couple of generators that went offline.
The most reliable form of power we have for uptime is nuclear.
Yeah.
The second is natural gas, and the natural gas problem is about using the power that you can make as much as you want with at the natural gas plant to run mitigation to keep valves from freezing. Natural gas doesn't freeze. Not on Earth. If natural gas ever freezes on Earth, all our problems are gone. We're all dead. Natural gas won't freeze on fucking Mars. But the valves will freeze up, and the ability to move the gas where you want it when you want it is what goes to shit. Right? So that's one of the big improvements they made in Texas. The other thing they did is we brought in Bitcoin mining. And like all the Bitcoin miners just went, yeah, we can shut down for 48 hours. Click. Okay, we can go back on now. Click. And you can literally see in the hash rate, you can see a dip right in there. It's not huge, but it's there, right? That was one of the things that stabilized. And they didn't all do it, but they were all like, yeah, let us know. Let us know. But if you want reliable, clean power, the best thing we have is nuclear. And like next generation nuclear, which there's none of in the United States. We've never built. I think the last one we built was in the 70s.
Yep. Which is really sad. And I'm hoping for a renaissance in safe nuclear because it's absolutely possible. It's super, super clean. And you don't have to worry if the sun's shining or the wind's blowing. I don't know. Well, I know exactly what the holdup is. We've got some dumbasses at the upper level. But
now, let me just say, I'm all for not building them on coastlines where fucking earthquakes happen. I understand that, and in flood zones and shit. But come on, we can figure that out. We put a dude on the moon in '69. We can build a safe nuclear facility today. And if they would build thorium. So the problem with the plants we have now is you can have what they call a meltdown, whether it's all the way or partially, like what happened with Fukushima. But a thorium reactor, it just stops and nothing bad happens. And we've known how to build that forever, but we built all the shitty ones originally because it was just an excuse to develop tech to make nuclear bombs. Yep. The space program was so we could make missiles, and the nuclear program was so we could make bombs. And they sold it to the people that way.
Craziness.
How'd we get here?
I don't know. Well, because I read an article that had some bullshit that had no critical thinking at all from the author, as usual. I also read one in a science magazine today. What was it? Never mind. I can't remember, but it was the most unscientific thing I'd ever read in my life with no citations at all. And the thing that was not researched was how many. It was about. Okay, so they found under Yellowstone a deposit of liquid carbon, right? And so they were talking about the impact of volcanic carbon on the atmosphere. And then, of course, global warming and carbon comes in. And they had to have the caveat about how the natural, like volcanic carbon isn't really the problem. The humans are the problem. And they cited a recent study that says we are warming 170 times faster than we would if humans weren't on the planet, with no actual citation for that study. So a recent study, which it was just like meh. And you have science in the name of your journal title. Okay.
Did you see the earthquake advisory warning?
Yeah.
Nope.
There's a high likelihood of a 7 earthquake anytime in the next 48 hours for San Francisco area.
Yep. San Francisco all the way up to LA. And I dug into that a little bit, and predicting an earthquake. I mean we're not 100% on that yet, but it was. If I lived there, I'd probably take a vacation right now.
If they thought they could actually predict an earthquake, you think they would tell people, or do you think they would just quietly leave?
I don't know.
There was a dude in the 80s that did a study, and it vetted out fairly well. And he said we could predict earthquakes by looking at how many pets ran away. The dogs and cats fucking know. And they freak out and they run. And I think that's probably more accurate than a lot of other things. I mean, I guess they can see like, you have aftershocks, you have pre-shocks. Maybe they're picking up pre-shocks.
Could be. Don't they measure the pressure that's built up with the tectonic plates? Yeah.
To some degree. Yeah. All right, guys, I got to go. Nisha said shut my mouth. So thanks for letting me join.
Later. Thanks for hopping on. Hope to see you soon.
I've got like 15 minutes too. So yeah,
that's cool. Well, what do we want to cover for the next week? We haven't heard from John much, and there is a a question here for John. Do you sell plans for the lamb tractor?
I don't have plans for the lamb tractor. I took Billy Bond's lamb tractor, gave the video to my guy. He welded it together. There's not any current plans for it. There's nothing to it. Just make your dimension, find out what you can get locally dimensionally, and just build it how you want it to be built.
How big is yours?
10 by 20.
Okay. There you go. Make a 10 by 20 box that keeps lambs in and bad things out. That's what you do.
And as a person who has raised both goats and sheep, while sheep can rough up something like a lamb tractor by hitting it with their heads, it's nothing compared to the abuse it will get for goats. So it's, doable to keep them in.
Goats climb on roofs, Porsches. I mean,
we built it, light. It's made out of angle iron, 1 inch. Okay. And I can push it by myself if I have to. You could definitely make it stronger. And even as light as it is, I generally just take some tubular nylon and girth hitch it around to the ball on the four-wheeler, and I just kind of slowly tow it where I want it.
Slow enough that they can move with it. And they probably learn pretty quick. Like, hey, guys, it's time to move. Even birds do that eventually. Like, the first time you move a chicken tractor, you kill one, right? That's the stupid one. And it's pretty soon they're like, oh, it's the human. We're going to new shit, and everybody runs to that side and follow you.
The food is better where they move us.
Yeah.
Any advice you can give for those thinking about giving sheep, John?
Have enough. The amount of sheep you think you want is probably too many. We've got 4 sheep. They sheared it completely down. There's nothing out there for them. They've got to go to the back pasture. Just get you 2 sheep and start with it, and make sure you're growing grass. They will eat it down. I mean, we had grass so tall when you walked through it, it was over your head, and none of that shit's there now.
Yeah, they will eat more than grass too. They will eat underbrush like a goat.
Yeah.
A goat will eat some different things, but we cleared forest with the sheep because we had 11 at one time originally.
There's a reason cattlemen and sheep herders fucking killed each other not so long ago in the western United States.
Boy, a sheep tractor it's a 10 by 20 pin with basically wire hog panels. We use cattle panels, just keeping them in the frame, and we move it twice a day. It just depends on what's there for them to eat and how much you want them to eat. I want them to eat, poop, and move around in there and basically push all that poop in the ground and then move them. And ideally, you're going to bring chickens behind them 3 days behind. That's when your larva is going to hatch. The chickens are going to eat all that, and they're going to scratch that in and super fertilize that. So more important than what's happening today is what it looks like 6 months from now.
I'll just add to that. Ben Falk, I don't know if he still does it, but I saw him. I was at his place, and he was running chickens and sheep with electronet coexisting. And he did not have the hair sheep like you do. He had the ones with the wool, which I think is I won't get into that, but I think it doesn't make any sense. But the chickens would get up on the backs of the sheep, and like an insect bird in a National Geo, the chickens were eating shit out of the sheep's hair and wool and pests and stuff like that. And for some reason, he had taken the chickens away from the sheep, and he had done it for like a week, and he had his first sheep ever go down with fly strike as soon as he took the chickens away from the sheep. You probably will never have that because they're not wool. He's in Vermont. It's very wet. You have thick wool. It's a real risk. But, I mean, I didn't know about hair sheep back then. I saw that. I'm like, I don't ever want sheep. It's one of the grossest things I've ever seen in my life. Fly strikes where they get maggots in their skin.
Yeah,
gross. We sheared the sheep. Way too late in the year to do it, but you had to. And we were pouring some herbal mixture his girlfriend at the time, wife now, came up with, and you would pour it on the area, and you would just see maggots pour out of this animal. He said, I ran them for 5 years, never separated them, and never had that till now.
Isn't that why they cut the tails off too? Because it'll just be more bulk right there. That's why sheep are born with tails. They cut those things off of there to help with that.
And they get shit stuck all over them too, and then that just brings in more flies. Yeah.
Do your sheep have tails, John?
I think they do. I think my sheep have some kind of they got tails.
Yeah, they wag them.
Yeah, mine came from Ken. I've got a video when we went and picked the sheep up from Ken, and I thought we were going to buy 4 sheep, and they're just going to be in a pen, and we're just going to put them in the trailer. Nah, we chased those sheep around for hours trying to tackle and grab those baby sheep. I've got a video of it. It's pretty entertaining.
I have used sheep treats to make mine easier to handle for that reason, but I have a smaller flock than Ken. But I think it's kind of cool that Ken, you and I all have St. Croix, or I have a Katahdin pair as well, because we can actually swap genetics with each other, which is cool. So that's why I really want Brownie to go somewhere and move his genetics on, because he does need to leave here.
Let me add, though, what John said about how much they'll eat. I don't have sheep. I can't grow enough grass to support them.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to have a hay bill. So whenever you hear us talking about like, well, I have this or I have that, don't go like get emotionally attached to a livestock species or a system or anything. Do what's geographically, regionally, and property appropriate for you and the time you have to work. Like John said, he moves his sheep twice a day. Well, if you work a job and you're gone 12 hours a day, you don't have time to do that. So you either need a double-sized tractor, a tractor with a door that automatically opens halfway. You need some way to automate that, or don't do it.
Or do electric fencing and bigger pastures.
Works. Like, because if you couldn't move that every other day, like I can imagine what they would do to a 10 by 20 square if they were there for 24 hours.
Oh, and they'd get sick.
They would get
so sick because they'd be eating. Yeah, ours are managed differently than John's, and we have them somewhere for 3 to 5 days before we move them.
Yeah, I don't know how steep the extra property you have is, but if it's like yours and you had a tractor that got tactical, probably get rolled over.
He might.
A braking system.
Yeah, I mean, we have a portable little dog shelter where we have their food that the sheep can't get into.
Yeah, and
that thing's on skids, and we need a 4-wheeler to drag it. I think long term, there will probably be multiple ones in different places that we can rotate around, but it's what we have right now. I did learn something else, like the hard way with sheep, which is when you bring them in from another place, their gut biome is not necessarily acclimated to what you are growing, which would have been less the case for John from Ken because they're close to each other. Mine came from another state. And we lost one in the first week because we didn't slowly titrate them onto the pasture. We just let them rip. And I think she probably would be alive had I had some hay from that other state and gave them access to a little bit of pasture at a time while they built a different gut biome. And that goes back to when you first bring them onto your property, getting them acclimated to your pasture is pretty, it's, if you don't want to lose one, it's important, right? So I don't know. I love sheep. I listened to Jack talk about ducks and how he never had to mow his grass. And I was like, great, I'll get ducks. And I got ducks and they made zero difference at the holler.
Where we grass.
Because I grow grass really well here. And then that's why we have sheep. So Jack's right on. Like you don't necessarily get to choose the exact livestock that's going to be best for your property because ducks did not do it. They didn't do it for John either. And he has a lot more ducks than I have.
Well, ducks destroyed shit here. Like, we have way less ducks right now. We have way less guineas right now. When the grass goes down, the ducks kind of like dig when there's little holes in the ground with the water, like little puddles, and then make the puddle bigger. And then the chickens get in there when it dries up a little, and you can walk through where the grass was, and a chicken will jump up out of the ground. He's literally fully flush with the ground. So they're doing a ton of damage. Yeah, we've tried to I have spent years making this property work when really I should have brought in a dozer and made this property have a perfect taper on it where we want it and then build it. Yeah. But I've always operated under the, oh my God, the sky is falling, the world is ending. So we didn't. I mean, ideally we came in and took out all these shit trees and built this, and now we would actually have trees growing. And now we're getting to the point where that is what's going to happen, and we'll take care of all these problems.
And that'll be great. I can't wait to see your property in 10 years, John. I cannot wait.
Yeah, it'll be perfect. It'll be how it should be. Yeah.
Right. And okay. Well, sounds like we're starting to wind down. Let's go once around the horn and just say what's on our mind and go from there. Jack,
do a live video.
Oh,
ahead.
John,
Go
you
ahead,
get to
John.
go first.
I do a live video every night at 9 o'clock on YouTube. We can talk, have these conversations, whatever you want to talk about. I have a little bit different content on Instagram. I'm on almost every social media. We do shirts, we do T-shirts, we do nylon tactical gear. Yeah, all three of us are wearing a shirt that we produce. This is the new one. We came out last night. Hard work, no handouts. I'm easy to find if you want to talk to me.
Jack.
I'm Jack Spirko, host of the Survival Podcast, running 14 and a half years now, and you can learn all about it at thesurvivalpodcast.com. It is kind of a new year, and as I mentioned earlier, it's not really a New Year's resolution. I've been doing it for about 2 months now. I have set a goal for myself to read a new book every week, and so my book of the week recommendation will be 1491. I really recommend reading that book. It is fascinating. If you usually get bored by science, anthropology stuff, it's written in a way that you can actually read it.
Cool. I am wearing my Self-Reliance Self-Reliance Festival t-shirt today. Guess why?
Because it's coming back.
It's March 25th and 26th, and it's after the first of the year. So we are launching ticket sales this week. And if you are somebody who is obsessive about checking the website, you already know that you could go there right now and grab your early bird tickets. We will be announcing it officially later this week. I have a few ticket categories to add, but I had it up for 10 minutes because it's just as I add tickets, they update on the website and people already started buying them. So I thought I'd better mention that selfreliancefestival.com does have the tickets, and I hope to see folks there. We are going to release applications for speakers. We have some speakers set up already. I'm looking to confirm 2 more before we launch the applications, but it's going to be a great lineup. And the Friday before, we have Refuge Medical doing a medical training. So Bears crew is coming out and doing the Responder 1 training. It's going to be a fun time, and I can't wait to get into this festival this year. Looking forward to it.
Oh, real quick, that made me remember, I should be pointing this out. We have a pretty big event ourselves that I'm doing with John Bush. Nicole and I both work with him some, and he's doing Greater Reset 4 in Bastrop, Texas, 18th of the month through that weekend. It's like the 18th through the 22nd or something like that. I'll be speaking there on the 19th. Zuby, the well-known thinker, tweeter, rapper, will be down there performing. A lot of other cool people, and you can learn more about that at my site, thesurvivalpodcast.com. Come down and see me. It'll be pretty cool.
Awesome, guys.